going to give a really quick overview of the events at the end of the game, just in case you're here and you're curious what happens. We come across Higgs, who has taken Amelie prisoner. He forces her to use this giant BT to fight you. You have this epic boss fight, and at the end of it, he takes Amelie and jumps somewhere. After the battle, Fragile jumps us to Amelie's beach so that we can then find Higgs and find out what happened to Amelie. There we have a 1-to-1 fight with Higgs, as well as a very familiar fight sequence. Amelie thanks us. We have some really funny, cringy, running on the beach moments with some Princess Peach and Mario references. As they're running, they come across a cliff where they see Bridget and die-hardman, and die-hardman has a gun up to Bridget, and while this is happening, Cliff comes out of the water. They see Sam, and Cliff says, "I want my BB back," and Amelie looks at Sam and pushes him off the cliff, killing him on the beach, bringing him back into the real world. Our crew lets us know that we need to go all the way back to the west coast because Fragile is very sick because she's been jumping so many people, and so we gotta get all the way back there so then we can get to Amelie's beach again. On our way to the west coast, we come across Cliff in another war sequence. This time we end up in Vietnam and we have to defeat Cliff again, but this time the ending is a bit different. He sits there, we come up to him and he reaches for our BB as usual. Cliff whistles to the BB and Sam finishes the whistle as he's doing it. And Cliff kind of looks at Sam like he knows who he is now. He stands up, he gives Sam his dog tags, and Sam offers him BB. Cliff hands BB back and embraces Sam in a hug, where he is then transformed into the Cliff we are seeing in all of the flashbacks where he's wearing a suit and disappears with the sound of a gunshot. Later we see another flashback sequence from the pod with the Cliff story, where we see this John telling Cliff to take BB and leave. He explains how Cliff basically saved his life a million times and how he owes him everything and that Cliff and his family don't deserve this. When we wake up, we're in our safe room with Fragile and Deadman there. They explain that die-hardman has gone missing and that he left a video recording of him explaining where he's gone. So we watch that and we find out that die-hardman, he's saying that he's been doing some research on Amelie and that no one's actually ever seen her in real life. Is she actually a real person? Is she a ghost? Who is she? He explains that Amelie couldn't be Bridget's daughter because Bridget had ovarian cancer at the age of 20, so there's no way that she could have her own children. Die-hardman has a baby doll, much like Cliff's baby dolls, that's linking him to Amelie's beach and that he's gonna go confront her. And he's bringing a gun with him with Sam's blood inside. Fragile explains that Higgs had met Amelie and she explained to him about being the extinction entity and made him an agent of extinction. So basically one of her people to go forth in the real world and make things happen for her. So she gave him more powers with his dooms. Higgs didn't actually have a baby in his pod the whole time. It was actually the doll. So Sam now needs to go to her beach and stop her from starting the extinction of all human life. We leave Lou with Deadman. Fragile gives us a fragile jump one last time now that she's feeling better, and Sam goes to the beach. Bridget and Amelie's entire purpose as the extinction entity was to cause the extinction of the human race. After every extinction, life still finds a way. Jurassic Park, I know. So this was just part of life, was ending the humans and seeing what comes next. Amelie gives Sam the choice between watching the world end with her and staying with her and doing this together, or he could completely cut Amelie off, leave her on her beach forever alone, and save the world. We try to fire at her, it doesn't work, so Sam goes up to her and hugs her. He has a memory of her telling him on his beach that he needs to save the world basically one day and he needs to stop her, and she gives him the dream catcher. So he basically says, "I remember you told me." You know, she knew what she was, she didn't want to be what she was, but she knew she had to fulfill what she needed to do, but she wanted somebody to stop her as well because she did care about Sam. We also learned that all of the visions and dreams that the Dooms sufferers are carrying were actually her dreams, and they just came into their world as nightmares. That she's been seeing the end of the world forever, and that's why she just wants to end it and get it done with. Sam and her basically come to the terms with she needs to stay on the beach alone, cut off all contact from him, and because it's her beach that's connecting the world of the dead to the world of the living, that this will be a way to keep the Death Stranding off for longer. She puts him in the water, basically setting him free from her, and he wakes up on his beach. We learn that she saved Sam when he was younger. She found him on his beach and saved his life, making him a repatriate, and because of that caused the Death Stranding. It messed up the balance between life and death, and therefore Dead became able to pass over into the world of the living. Bridget was just a normal person living in the world. At 20, she got ovarian cancer and had to have surgery for it. During this surgery, she died, and her soul, her ka, was transported to her beach. Now, even though this happened, Bridget ended up surviving her surgery, and her ha, her body, remained in the real world. So she was basically split into two people. Now that Bridget had two people that were her, she realized that she was still aging in the real life and Amelie wasn't aging. So eventually she started the story that Amelie was her daughter, that she was just very, very sick. So she was away in the doctor, so no one actually ever met her. The father wasn't there, so nobody ever questioned why they couldn't see Amelie. She leaves Sam with the gun. A gun won't help you here, but it has a role to play. When Deadman and Lou grab him, because of the gun, they're able to connect with Sam. We wake up and then we see that is die-hardman's inauguration as the new president. He takes off his mask. We see that it is John. Deadman explains that Mama and Hartman were out there looking for him on beaches to try to bring him back. They couldn't find him for an entire month, which probably feels like an eternity on the beach. He explains that he still doesn't really trust die-hardman, and die-hardman comes over and interrupts this conversation. Die-hardman, aka John, explains that both Bridget and Cliff meant the world to him. He starts to get emotional where he talks about seeing Cliff on the beach and thinking, well, Cliff's here to kill me and he deserves it. And yet he doesn't kill him. He actually sees who he is, remembers who he is, and Cliff forgives him. Sam gives him the gun back. Die-hardman is very appreciative of this gesture. Sam basically tells him, do better as a president. We end up seeing Deadman, where he informs us that Lou is dead. The decommission orders come through, and it's time for us to go lay BB to rest in the incinerator so he doesn't turn into a BT. Deadman does tell us that there is a 70% chance that the baby can survive outside the pod, telling us that we can take our cuffs off, which he's temporarily shut down, and that it's basically up to us. Once we turn the incinerator on, our cuffs will be linked again. Or he's alluding to the fact that we can take BB out of his pod and be invisible from the UCA and never connect our cuffs again. It's against the president and UCA's orders to not decommission Lou. They embrace because they've gotten close over this journey, showing that Sam isn't afraid of touch anymore. On our way out, we see Fragile on the beach. She gave Higgs the option to live on the beach forever or to end his life with a gun, and Higgs chose to end his life. She offers us a job at Fragile Express, which is now officially part of the UCA. He kind of leaves her, rejecting her, saying, no, I'm good by myself. And he claims, everything I touch, I lose. We then walk to the incinerator. We connect with BB for one of the last times, and we see the cutscene of Cliff, where we see John, aka die-hardman, explaining to Cliff that he needs to get the baby out of here. There's nothing he can do for his wife Lisa, so he offers him the gun to take BB and run and get out, or he'll never see his baby again. John shuts down the alarm system for the room to give Cliff a little bit more time and says to just get out as fast as he can, but that he is also working for the president, and that if she orders him to do something, he has to do it. Cliff has to then kill his wife, say goodbye to her, take BB in the pod, and try to escape. He can't escape. All the locks to the doors are closed and people see him running with the BB. He ends up running into a room where he is talking to BB and singing. This entire scene, Sam is there watching. The guards open the door and open up fire on Cliff, leaving him dying on the floor. John comes into the room, tells everybody to stop shooting. Bridget grabs the BB pod and sees that there's nothing inside of it. He is holding the baby in his arms. Sam is sitting there watching all this happen, and Cliff looks at him and starts talking to him. He basically starts repeating the same exact scene that happened to us on the battlefield, where he explains that Sam is a bridge, and it is revealed to us that Sam is actually his baby and he was the BB. Sam realizes that that baby is actually him and embraces the baby as he did on the battlefield with BB. They embrace in a hug again. Bridget forces John to pull the trigger, killing both Cliff and the BB. So the baby, which is Sam, goes to his beach. Amelie goes to find him and fixes the wound in his stomach and sends him back into the world of the living. Because his mom is dead, he's no longer a possibility for the BB program. She decides that she's going to take Sam on as her own child. After the flashback stops, we come back into the real world, and Sam has left his cuffs in the incinerator and taken Lou out of his pod, and he's frantically trying to resuscitate him. Lou is just sitting there lifeless. And finally, Lou lets out a cry. Lou is okay. Lou has survived. Lou has made it. Sam walks out into the rain with Lou, and it is not timefall. It is just normal rain, and Sam looks into the distance.